This is the last part of a three-part video. In the previous videos we have seen that we can begin and translate mental phenomenology into brain-related terminology. And this is very important because, like in other fields of medicine, when you have an etiological diagnostic system, when you say mitral valve prolapse, meaning a place in the body and what happened to it, when you say depression or anxiety, it's not related to the body, and it's not related to any mechanism that we know of. And what we are trying to do in this video is just translate the phenomenology of mental disorder, which is descriptive, into a brain-related terminology, which is a place in the body and what happened to it. And we have seen that we can take what we know about brain organization, meaning emergent property, small world network organization, and connectivity balance organization, and hierarchical organization of the brain, and we can begin to translate mental disturbances specifically to disturbances of those brain organizational optimized functions. And we have seen also that we can divide phenomenology in psychiatry into three general fields: personality disorders, mood and anxiety disorders, and schizophrenia spectrum disorders. And we can begin and relate personality disorders to the disturbances of the default mode network, small world network organization. We have detailed that in the previous video. We also describe mood and anxiety disorders as emergent properties from unstable, non-optimal brain organization, more specifically a reduction and increase of free energy disturbances, meaning increased free energy, a disturbance of matching dynamics and plasticity. And we can go further and describe schizophrenia spectrum disorders when psychosis and fragmentation of experience in psychosis is related to disconnection dynamics, and negative symptom schizophrenia is related both to increase of connectivity dynamics and also hierarchical bottom-up insufficiency. We also have seen that systemized delusion could be a disturbance of hierarchy in the sense of top-down cognitive control bias. So if we take all these together, we can now begin and generate a more specific translation matrix which takes the type of diagnosis that we do today, the descriptive diagnosis, meaning signs, symptoms, and history of the patient, and generate correlation matrix to specific disturbances that we have described for the brain optimal organization. So what I've developed using this matrix based on the literature is a translation matrix which is free on the web. You go to a website titled Neuroanalysis. Neuroanalysis, in my mind, could be a very suitable name for a future brain integrating science that will integrate neurology and psychiatry eventually into one brain related science. Neuro would be like in neurology related to the brain, and analysis would be related to complex system evaluation and correction. So neuroanalysis website is, you can find it on neuroanalysis.org.il. And there you go to a web page titled CBP, Clinical Brain Profiling. I thought that it would be a good idea to title this translation matrix from phenomenology into brain-related disturbances as a clinical brain profiling, in the sense that it is clinical, related to the clinical phenomenology, and related to the brain, so its brain and profile would be the profile of brain disturbances relevant to that clinical phenomenology. So you go to clinical brain profiling page, and you open that page and you will see a set of signs and symptoms, and you can check in the signs and symptoms of the patients that you have just evaluated. You click on a button, you scroll down and you click on the button Clinical Brain Profiling Results, and then you will receive a vector, a graph vector with entries. Each entry is related to a specific disturbance of the brain which is related to that patient. So for example, if that patient will have signs and symptoms of depression, for example, then you would expect that he will be disturbed more in the spectrum of stability, of free energy, of optimization, of the optimized matching dynamics, and so on. So you will be scoring high on that parameter. So in that graph you will actually see a combination of brain disturbances which are related to that patient. Now this is a hypothetical first step towards a neuroscientific psychiatry. It's not actually validated yet, but it is formulated in such a way that it is both testable prediction, so it is a specific testable prediction for the specific patients which can be validated once you can have access to the relevant brain imaging and signal processing which is sensitive to that disturbance. So actually you can take the same patient or group of such patients and send them to the scanner and evaluate them with signal processing, and the relevant signal processing will validate the diagnosis. So one thing is that clinical brain profiling is a testable prediction, can be validated, accepted or refuted. The other thing that it is personalized medicine in the sense that it is a personalized diagnosis for a specific patient, because each patient is different from the other, and this kind of vector describing the specific patient disturbance is personalized medicine. So now the next thing to do is to first to become educated in complex system theory, complex system science, neural computation, in order to know the background needed for such clinical brain profiling diagnosis. And you have it on different publications and books that I have written and are available also on the web page. You have also a manual, explanatory manual. And now the next thing would be to begin and evaluate patients according to this clinical brain profiling assessment and develop it further, because, as I said, it is not a final product, it's just an initial step for beginning and developing brain-related psychiatry. And once experience is accumulated using clinical brain profiling, then we can go ahead and finally arrive to a brain-related psychiatry, which would be critically important for curing patients, because it will give us the algorithm, the plan, the blueprint, or the direction or roadmap to try and correct these disturbances. For example, if you have disconnection dynamics and you can reconnect the system, you can re-optimize it, and psychosis symptoms could be eliminated. And the technology for doing that is already being developed. We have optogenetics, which in the near future, will probably be able to control single neuron activity or groups of neuronal activity, and such technology will offer the basics for developing brain pacemakers, just like in cardiac pacemaker, which eliminates cardiac arrhythmia and eliminates signs and symptoms of cardiac insufficiency. So the future of psychiatry in curing effectively mental disorders is really, really heavily dependent on our ability to generate neuroscientific psychiatry, neuroanalysis, and clinical brain profiling.